Welcome to the Parentrepreneur podcast. I'm Jake Haynes with Savannah Haynes. Did I just roll over you? Do you want to introduce yourself?
I can. I don't know. Is it weird when you cut and be like, and I'm Savannah Haynes?
I think it's a little weird. When
Yeah, I actually agree.
it's a little
feels
cheesy.
like yes, it is. It feels like it's what you're supposed to do, but then you hear it back and it's
You're
like, oh, that's weird. Go ahead, you can introduce me.
No, we'll just roll with that. I think that's funny. So we left off a little bit more of talking about why we're co-hosting this together and what we're hoping to get out of this. And I think the best place to start is hearing a little bit more about your business, because they've heard a little bit about my journey in little bits. I don't know if I've gone over the whole thing, but just kind of documented a few things on the YouTube. But we talked about last time how you're, the co-founder of Truly Crunchy. So let's hear the origin stories. How to come about? What do you do? And what does it look like in this current stage of your business?
Yeah. So, Truly Crunchy actually started, as all good business ideas do, from Jake Haynes himself. We're actually in the throes of the newborn days with our third son. So this is our fourth son currently sleeping on me. But our third son, it was the newborn days. And for us, that means, baby in the bed, late nights, just chatting with each other during late night breastfeeding sessions, essentially. And we were flipping through one of my favorite publications that had beautiful photography, and it's a homeschool focused publication.
I forgot about this.
Yeah.
I forgot that's where this came from.
We were flipping through it, and it's just inspiring, and it's just so beautiful. Half of the magazine is centered around the photography, and it came physically in the mail. It came in print, and
Well, give them a shout out. What is it called again?
Wild and Free.
Wild and Free. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do it
Real
so
ones
well.
know who that is.
Yeah. And so we were flipping through it, and I'm pretty sure you said that me and Sydney, my sister and co-founder, could do this in the health and wellness space, because it was something that we were super passionate about, have been learning about for years and years, and just something that we were just taking deeper and deeper. And yeah, you said you guys could totally do this in your space, your passion, your wheelhouse. And I remember saying to you, I was like, oh my gosh, please write that down, because that's an amazing idea, but there's no way this is happening now.
Yeah.
But like, we need to do that. Like, I don't want that idea to be forgotten, but this definitely isn't the season.
Yeah.
And so I tabled it. Actually, I didn't table it in my mind. I was going to table it in my mind, but I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I brought it up to Sydney a week or two later. I was like, Jake had this amazing idea, let's...
I actually just brought you on the podcast just to talk good about me. To compliment me.
Yeah, he paid me.
Yeah.
So I brought it up to her like maybe 2 weeks later. And I was like, Jake had this great idea. I think this would be so cool to do together. And, I fully expected her to agree, like, oh yeah, one day. But she was like, no, we could totally do that now. And I was like, are you serious? If you think we could, I'm totally down, because like Sydney's the one who makes things actually happen.
Yeah.
we have that great co-founder blend of the dreaming and the doing.
Yeah.
And so I knew if
perfect, 'cause you guys are
Sydney the doer was
sisters.
on board. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like, it's not gonna blow up. I mean, it could blow up, but it's not like you guys are gonna walk away from each other, because
Yeah.
you guys are, you're best friends.
Yeah.
She came from the background of like operating, nonprofits, and you guys have...
She was the one in our family who we said was going to own a business one day.
Yeah, right.
So
But you have similar enough personalities, but also different enough personalities where it just like works.
Yeah, for sure. So I knew if she was on board that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So then I was like, if you're serious, like, I will start this tomorrow with you. And so, yeah, she was. And so this was almost 2 years ago that we started the dreaming and the planning, and just like, what could this look like? And let's figure out a name, and, just yeah, kind of the fun first brainstorming phase. And we worked on that for a couple months and had our first issue made and ready to launch October 3rd of what year was that? 2023? Yes. Yeah, 2023.
So wait, how quick was that of a turnaround from ideation to
It was the summer. Was it like maybe June
June to October?
June to October
Wow.
that we got like an official,
I forgot about that. Like 3 or 4 months.
probably 4. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Officially.
Now I
yeah.
know all that it takes now. Like the fact that you
I
first
know.
issue was like 3
Yeah.
or 4 months is pretty incredible.
Thanks.
As you're just like figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
No
Neither
clue.
of us have any official background in the magazine industry. So we were literally Googling, how do you start a magazine? Like, no clue. But we knew it didn't matter. Like, you can, that's the thing, is that you don't have to have official experience
Yeah.
these days in,
No.
in anything, really. I mean, if there's, it's so cliche, if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
It's like there's so much available at our fingertips now that we were able to figure it out and sell it. And it was, we didn't grow a social media following before we started. There was no like personal brand before it. But on our first issue, we were profitable.
Yeah.
So it's like you can do it. Like you can, whatever your passion is. I just feel like it's possible these days.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think about that of it seems people say it's like the easiest to start the businesses now. It's also some people say it's like but it's also oversaturated, right? Anything you enter into is pretty oversaturated because anyone can start a business.
Right.
So I don't know, I think about that often because it's like when you think about, boomers, you had it easy. Yeah, it was harder back then because you didn't have the internet and you couldn't just throw up Facebook ads. But also, like, you could just take a business, change nothing about it, but just move it a city over, and it's successful.
Yeah, true.
The stretches of businesses, for good or for worse, is I just feel like more and more businesses get eaten up, and there's just more bigger players in marketplaces. Now, again, there's riches and niches, which just proves you guys like there's
Yeah.
plenty of big magazines. There's plenty of pretty big magazines, even somewhat in the space, but like nothing exact. So yeah, what gave you, I guess, the confidence in the ideation phase to like, oh, we should totally do this, and not kind of like chicken out? How did you know you're onto something, I guess?
I think we knew we were onto something because it was something that we wanted.
Scratch
It
your
was,
own itch.
yes, I know it's so common, but it was literally something that we were like, we would buy this. We would pay for this. We had enough confidence in our just like unofficial design abilities to make something attractive.
Yeah.
And find, the resourcing to make it into a physical product. That it was like, I don't know, it was something that we wanted enough ourselves that we knew there would be a market for it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what it came down to, was like, let's just try it. I mean, if it totally doesn't work and it's horrible, like we don't have to make another issue,
Yeah.
There's nothing like tying us to it. And thankfully for our particular business, there wasn't much that we had to put in money wise to start it.
Yeah.
We resourced from our own community for the most part. I think our biggest cost was printing the first issues and not knowing how many we would need.
Yeah.
But I think you helped us with those metrics. When we launched at an event, a conference with a lot of our target market there. And so I think you had said, if you do, what did you say?
I don't know
You
what
gave
I
us a
said.
percent. I think you said if you do 10%, that would be fantastic.
It was a really small event.
It was a
wasn't
very small
like,
event.
It wasn't huge.
Yeah,
Right?
but you're like, if you sell to 10% at this event, like that'll be fantastic. So we purchased based off of that number, and yeah, we actually sold about a third of
Yeah,
the not what audience
yeah,
attendees.
attendees.
A third of the attendees. I think it was 33%, almost on the dot.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting, and that gave us the motivation that we needed to keep going, but also knowing
I'm just remembering all this stuff. This is like truly new to me. Listening to this, I'm like asking legitimate questions because I don't remember.
It's funny.
So yeah, so you guys got the idea. You started quickly. I mean, that's truly impressive. I know it sounds
I
like
feel like
a tooting my own
we-
horn, like as if I never heard of this and wasn't a part of this, but I truly don't remember any of this.
I was kind of pushing us along quickly because it's one of those things when starting a business, you can drag your feet, especially if your income's not dependent on it.
Yeah.
This was not income dependent at this point. This was a side gig or whatever. I think that you can drag your feet for so long.
Yeah.
But I think I was like, no, we have to start this now because I was actually starting to see some similar products pop up. Nothing was the exact same as what we were doing, but close enough that it did make me scared.
Yeah.
That I was like, okay, yes, there's magazines everywhere, but our niche actually is kind of untouched as far as a physical magazine goes.
Right.
And so,
But it's not going to be for long. So it's like,
but it's
put
not
a
going to be for
fire
long.
in your
So I
ear.
kept seeing
Yeah.
these little things that were like all around it, but not quite it. And I was like, we have to make it happen. We have to do it now.
Yeah.
So, I think that was part of what helped us do it rather quickly.
Okay, then you got off the ground, or you made the first one, and you launched at a conference, right?
And then outside of that, most of our customers were friends and family,
Yeah. Okay.
people who knew us.
So I do know that there's kind of a bifurcation. There's like a split that happened with Truly Crunchy, and why you're seeing such big growth now, right? It was like truly the adage of do things that don't scale, and you guys did that. Like you just launched word of mouth, doing some social media, like some Instagram, like playing the game a little bit, but also going like being authentic enough to be like, we're not TikTok influencers. We're not going to be on TikTok. And you found some conferences, did launch at your first one, then you kept going.
We did a few more, just
Did
a
few more
couple
conferences.
that were local, but we felt like we're niche enough to have our target market there.
Yeah. So first great lesson. Hey, just like go, just get off the ground. Right. I talked about this in a YouTube video I recorded today. Like you have to understand there's a difference between impossible and hard. Right.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when you're a wanting entrepreneur, like it's so easy to be like, oh, I can't this season. When you think about starting your business, I can't. Well, this is a bad season, but I think we're just realizing that there is no easy season to do any of this. Like
Yeah.
it's just gonna be hard in different ways, and you might as well just get it going now, and rather than looking back, 5 years in the future, saying like, what did I do? Like, why didn't I start it then? It was actually
Yeah.
easier back then. Heaven forbid,
Right, right.
like
It's the fallacy that there's ever an easier time.
right.
Life is life, and it feels difficult because it's all relative, and so there's no better time than the present.
Yeah.
There
So
really isn't.
great first lesson of just get up off the ground. Me and my other co-founder, or my co-founder of our business, we talk about like when we build software for other business, we're like, what's the MVP? What's the minimum viable product? What is the minimum viable thing that you can build that people will pay for and that can validate your idea before you go all in on it?
And you
so
don't have to be super proud of it
you
either.
don't, yeah. Version 1 can be a little embarrassing. Like
Yeah.
try to polish it
look-
as much as you can.
Yeah. I look back at our first issue and I'm like, oh my gosh, we've come a long way.
Yeah, and
A
just
long
year and a
way.
half. Yeah,
Yes.
huge difference.
Yeah.
But you did it, know,
Yes.
and that's what's really important is get out there, get it going, make it revenue generating, and that's why I think so many people that we talked to didn't pull money from their business is because like I see now like me and Adam taking a very minimal salary. We could be taking almost double more what we bring in now, but. And for you guys, yeah, you're not at the place yet where you're pulling income yet, but that's because like I get it now. When I didn't have a business, I was always like, why would you take money out of your business? That's when you started business, But it's just like there's a certain place in your business where you want to get to the point where you can put in $1 and get $1 or $2 or $3. If you're crushing it, that could be $4 to $10 back. And right now, me and I'm obsessing over my business is creating that marketing machine where I can create the machine that spits out the $2 back. Not seeing it yet, but working on it. But for you guys, I mean, you have that. Put in $1, get $2 or $3 back, and it just makes more sense. Like, well, I could pull income, but you're starving your business. You're starving your business because cash is just fuel. And you can either take that fuel for yourself and your own things you want to do, or you could put it to work to keep the momentum going. So yeah, start quickly, build momentum, just keep it moving, keep improving. And so you guys launched quickly, figured it out, launched at a conference, and then bring us before you guys started doing like ads and scaling that way, and we're trying to figure things out in between, launching and that point.
Yeah. I think after launching and before we started ads, I think our main avenue of growth was different events and conferences that we were at, that we had booths at. There was only a couple, but it was enough to have us growing positively every quarter. So it's a quarterly magazine. And our numbers never dropped. And while our margins were so slim, it was still technically profitable every quarter. And it was just from those events. But I think it was a little bit of an unrealistic expectation because that first event we sold like 33% of the attendees. None of the other events were ever close to those numbers. And we were like, what's happening? Yeah. So we didn't expect that, but it was still enough to at least keep growing, which just kept us moving in the right direction. And so, yeah, I mean, occasionally somebody might see us on Instagram, but I think it was mostly the conferences, if I can remember correctly. And then I think you were probably the one encouraging me to do some ads. And, I had no experience in the ad world. But I think your advice was, what ads do you like? What catches you? Yeah. So I started paying more attention to the ads that would get me on Instagram and would screenshot them and kind of break them down. Okay, what about this was interesting to me? What did I like? Because at the time, like, we felt like we were kind of our own target market. Yeah. And so I just kind of created a super simple ad in Canva and tried my hardest to figure out the ad world on Meta. Made absolutely zero sense.
I mean, even to ad guys, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I was like, there is no way. So I said, screw that. I'm just going to go straight through Instagram itself. Yep. And so I started launching just tiny Instagram campaigns just to test the waters and see if I could get anything back for what I was putting in. So I think ad spend, I was testing around like $5-10 a day, just to see if it did anything at all. And it actually did. Yeah. We would get like 1 sale, 2 sales, which was enough to have a positive return. Yeah. So that I don't know if you can hear that kind of kept us going. When we realized that conferences and events, they were never the main goal. That, like, we didn't want to have to do a bunch of booth type things, but
it was exposure.
It was exposure, being brand new.
You met a sponsor.
We made a lot of great connections, relationships with people, and just meeting some of our first customers face to face was really cool. But that was not like the end goal. We didn't want that to be our main sales channel. And so where was I going with
that? Just events and what you wanted at events. Just saying, like, that was never, we were talking about Facebook ads and.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I had a reason for.
Well, that's,
where I was
well,
going with
I'll take. Well, yeah, she started, you and I both, like, were kind of messing back and forth with Facebook ads. Nothing was really taking. And I think it's actually a really important point. You're like, screw it, Facebook ads too confusing, which it is. And even now, being like dozens, if not hundreds of hours into Facebook ads, it is still confusing. But I think it's another great point where you're like, screw it. I'm going to do whatever I know best. And you know Instagram. Like, you've been on Instagram the most. The UI is easier to work with.
Actually, no, I didn't start with creating an ad. I started with just boosting posts. I just remembered that. Right. That was so easy. That was way easier.
Yeah, it's like just create the ad. And for those who don't know, maybe I imagine most of you know what that is, but like Facebook ads, like you actually have to create like the whole campaign infrastructure. It is very in depth, where you're creating like a big campaign, you're creating at like sub campaigns and ads, and all of that has different creative and copy, and
So much linking between things that
yeah,
has to
you have to connect
happen.
to your landing pages with a pixel and all that. Like, so it's a lot of infrastructure. Once you get it going, it's much more easier to manage, and now makes so much more sense now that I'm getting into it more and more. But yeah, you're just like, you know what, forget it. This is too confusing, and I'm just going to do Instagram ads. And yeah, we got it to the point. You got to the point where it's profitable. We found something that works, and I think that ad still runs technically.
Does it? Is it in the?
It,
I think
or maybe it
I
got killed
think
a
they
little
killed
while
it.
ago,
Yeah,
but it was like
it was
still
for a while.
profitable, still
Yeah,
like
yeah,
making sales, and
yeah.
it was truly again
Not
like
enough to feel confident to scale it to larger spend, like ad spend myself, but enough to keep us growing in the right direction.
yeah. And so I think that's really important, right? Like again, of launching quickly and just doing things that don't scale, right? Like the conferences were just, hey, let's get out there, let's meet people, let's get our names out there, let's get some sales going. But I mean, now you guys do what you did in a conference, in a day. And so, but it takes time, right? And so you just kind of take stair steps. If you look back on it, you're like, why wasn't I doing this the whole time? But I mean, when you really think
Yeah.
about it, I mean, it's just such a process, and you have to be
Is,
okay
yeah.
with the process.
You can't do it all at once. Like there's such a learning journey through it
Yeah.
that there's no way. Yeah, you can't look back and say, "Oh, I should have done that from the beginning." It's just not possible. Like you it doesn't matter even if you have a lot of experience. Like you still there's so much to learn
Yeah.
that you couldn't do it all from day one.
Right. Yep. So you guys launched, started doing conferences, getting your name out there, getting some sales with these little blips of conferences. Try Facebook ads, didn't really work, too confusing. And I think we tried a few campaigns that just weren't profitable. And then you moved over to Instagram ads, which I believe we ran for about like 8 months, 7 or 8 months.
Maybe I have no
I
idea
want
the
to say it was
timeline on
like,
that.
I think we're celebrating an anniversary when we started like messing with Facebook with the ads. I remember like doing math
Yeah.
and stuff in the
Wow.
hotel room.
Yeah.
And
True.
so, and then your ad guys didn't take over until what, February of this year?
I think so.
So yeah, that's like 7 months. So 7 months of profitable spend. Again, it was small.
Yeah.
It was small, like $5-10 a day, and they turn it off for some points when they
When
were
we felt like it was dropping off,
yeah.
we were like, okay, let's pause the ad and but that was enough to start generating new customers. We also had begun building an email list over the holidays. We did a free mini mag for like our email hook. Is that what you would call it? I don't know.
Yeah, like a lead magnet.
Lead
type
magnet.
thing.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
like a freebie.
yeah, and so between the little ads that I was doing with no knowledge of what I was actually doing, but they were kind of working. Just I attributed it just to trying,
Yeah.
and then the email list. Between that was again enough to keep us growing and keep it going in the right direction. To say, okay, yeah, we're not taking a dime from this yet, but it's worth it to continue because we can see that it's still going to go somewhere. And then we actually had a conversation with somebody in the magazine industry. We had a conversation with somebody in the magazine industry who has a very successful magazine. And I think that's like a super important step in our journey that we were actually trying to do for a lot longer or a lot earlier in our journey, but just weren't able to make it happen. But when we finally did, we got to ask this guy all of our questions and things. And it's really cool because I feel like in our world, it's more of the philosophy of like there's room for everybody.
Yeah.
And so he was super helpful. He's like, ask me any questions that you want to ask, etc. And so we started asking questions, and he had mentioned that most of their growth came through ads, and we're like, okay, we probably really need to dial into this if we're gonna grow big enough to make this continue to be worth our time. And so one of the lessons that we learned through our journey was just making sure that when you do kind of bring somebody else into your brand, that you really understand each other. Because we actually started trying to work with somebody on ads at the beginning, and we know that they do great work. They have great numbers from other people, but we weren't personally aligned in the way that we work.
Yeah.
Me and Sydney are extremely collaborative. We have a very unique take on the holistic wellness world, and very specific terms, and it's not what your typical wellness sounds like or looks like. So we needed somebody to really deeply understand our brand in order for the ads to showcase our brand correctly.
Yeah.
And so that was one of kind of our first lessons, was trying to work with somebody for a while, and it just was kind of this like almost like painful back and forth. And we never ended up getting any of those ads launched. And I think that those people realized it and told us like, we don't know if we're the right fit. And we were like, okay, we were really trying to make it work, because they were doing their work for us for free like not for free, but on with the idea that they would get percentages of our sales.
Yeah.
So there was no retainer at the beginning. So we were really trying to make it work, because they were already putting in effort and we didn't want to waste their effort.
Yeah.
But when they said that, I think it was almost kind of a relief. It was like, okay, yes, this is kind of what we've been feeling. Yeah, let's part ways. It's okay. It didn't work.
But side note, I mean, this is why I started my business, even though it might be the software agency space is really super saturated. You would not believe how many profitable businesses there are out there, that 7-figure businesses that, don't respond to customers, who, maybe service other business and they don't respond in a timely manner, or they, sometimes take advantage of people, or they don't have good reviews. Like, yeah, like you said, there's enough room for everybody. There's enough room for people to start businesses, particularly in the B2B space, where you're integrous, you're honest, you're authentic, you do good work, you show up on time, you pick up the phone, you send emails reasonably. Like, not to talk poorly about this person, but like,
Yeah.
it was just kind of basics too. It wasn't just alignment. It was like, why aren't you responding to our emails why is it taking you 2 weeks to respond to an email? Like that, it drives me crazy.
Yeah,
Because I mean, for me and my co-founder's business, like, we guarantee it responds within 24 hours for all of our clients, because it's not that hard. Even if it's just like, hey, I'm working on this, I'll give you a response by Wednesday or whatever. Like, it's totally okay.
Yeah, just acknowledging the email, even
Just
if you can't
acknowledging,
actually
yeah.
get back to them.
But there's just the bar is so low, and that's what I really want to encourage people out there, is like, the bar is so low. If you have any skill that you can leverage into your own business, because like, your average competitor is kind of lazy, does decent work, but isn't communicative, can kind of take advantage of people. Like, it's just, especially in my industry, in the software agency space, it's full of snake oil salesmen and just a lot of dishonest practices. And so that's why I created the business I did, is took all those complaints, and just reverse engineered, that if you work with us, we solve for all those things, but we also guarantee our work around those areas. So if you're willing to, know the pain points, or if you can see the pain points, you're willing to, be bold, you can create a really successful business that really doesn't do a whole lot different, just other than just say, hey, I'll get to you back quicker than the average guy, and I guarantee it. Like, if you just guarantee your work, that you'll do good work, you'll show up on time, and that you're integrous, the world will open up for you. But
Yeah.
back to Truly Crunchy. So you guys tried, and you talked to CMO of a successful company, got all your questions answered.
Or some of them, yeah.
Well, most of them answered. He suggests this ad guy who was reputable, but it just didn't work out.
Didn't work out.
He says, this isn't going to work out. You go, we agree. And then
Yeah.
what?
Well, it was hard because I think a lot, like we felt like a lot was hinging on this working out because of the numbers that they had brought in for other people.
Yeah.
We had a lot of hope tied to the success of these ads. So when it was like, when we realized, okay, we're not doing this, it kind of felt like
It was an
a
existential
panic.
crisis.
Yes. Yeah.
Totally.
It
Because like
sounds
someone
silly,
dangling
but
7 figures in front of you.
Yeah,
Like, hey, I can
quick
make
growth.
you like a $6 million business. It's like,
we
oh,
were
okay.
starting to talk to other people about outsourcing things because currently like it is me and my sister running the show, doing everything, wearing all the hats, as it is for most people when starting a business, and
Yeah.
that can burn you out. So we know like there's a line of, okay, like we gotta outsource before we burn out, and how do you make enough money to outsource
Yeah, that's the
before that
urgency, right?
burnout hits?
Yeah, it's like, let's get this thing profitable. So not even take an income, but just like at
Yeah.
least to hire other people so that we can
Yeah, what comes first, right?
push this
Depends
off
on your
at least.
situation. Yeah. I think it depends
Hire
on
more people and
yeah.
push off the things you just don't want to do or that are more time consuming so you can focus on growing the business.
Yeah. So that was kind of a dramatic
Oh yeah.
day or two for us. for me, it's well, yeah, for all of us really, but for me and Sydney. But it was like immediately, okay, what do we do now? Who else do we know? Where do we find somebody? Because now we realize this is what our business growth is dependent upon, for quicker growth that we really need right now. And so it was just one of those moments of who could we reach out to? Who could we talk to? And Sydney had a friend that she and her husband knew from the past, and she knew that he was in the ad space. And I think we had one or two other people that we knew of who did a similar thing. Was there somebody that you knew of?
I don't remember.
I can't remember, but either way, I was like, okay, let's just reach out to everybody, see who responds. Because at this point, response was, again, the bar was so low. It was
Quickly
like,
do they respond to our
who's the
email?
quickest response?
Yeah, seriously.
And just start some conversations. And yeah, and the guys that we're working with now, I think my sister emailed or texted him. I think she texted him and he responded within the hour. I mean, almost immediately. It was like, hey, can you hop on a call in 30 minutes? I'd love to hear what you want to, what you're talking about. And so within an hour of her text, they had a phone call already. And that was really encouraging to us.
Yeah.
So we scheduled kind of our intro meeting together and ended up deciding to go to work with him and his team. And so that's been really, really great.
Side note. Excuse me. About that, just wanted to talk about hiring freelancers. Whether you're hiring a software developer, or you're hiring someone for your business, an ads guy, a marketing guy, social media, or maybe even you're hiring an employee. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine who owns a successful mortgage brokerage business here in the Nashville area. And when someone shows you, when you begin to see red flags, especially early on, of an employee or a freelancer, it's not going to get better. Like, they're putting their best foot forward. And so this is a lesson I'm really having to understand. And even with clients, like even if you service clients and there's certain people you don't want to work with, like, believe people when they show you who they are and they're putting their best foot forward. So if they're not responsive to your emails at the beginning, they're not going to be responsive. It's probably going to get worse later on. And
you told me that. I didn't want to believe you.
And it was true.
Yeah.
And
It kept getting a little bit
haven't-
worse and a little bit worse.
I just haven't found a time where I found an exception with that.
Yeah.
It rarely, I don't think I've ever seen a time where it's like, oh, actually, no, that there's this circumstance or whatever. Like, usually it's just people are putting their best foot forward. And if an employee or whatever isn't working out early, like, you just kind of have to believe them. And it's better to cut ties and move on.
And
Save
both
help
of your time.
Yeah, help them find something
resources.
else. And, you need to find something else for the sake of your business. But
Yeah.
just want to make that quick point.
Yeah, that is a good point. I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
I did not want to believe it. I was like, no, he probably just, I don't know. And then
Yeah.
it just kept getting a little worse. And again, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't
It's pretty
good
horrible.
enough.
It's pretty horrible. Not responding to an email in like 10.
Was it that long?
I think it was like over.
I don't remember the
Over a
details.
week at a time. Like,
I've
because
put it
just
all
so
out of my
slow. It
mind.
was so slow.
I
It's
don't
like
even
you
remember.
guys ask a question, he may not respond. You hit him back again, he might respond, and then like by that point, you guys have finally got an email response. But it's almost been like 2 weeks, and so the it was just moved so slow.
Yeah.
Because the back and forth was. It took forever to get back word on of like any questions. So
Yeah,
you
that's
guys
true.
have been, you talked to him. I think you could start talking to this vendor in November, and then the whole firing and walking away from both ends, I think was February,
Probably January.
maybe January. It was still like, it was like 3 months
Yeah.
And it-
wow.
to just get
And
like
we
a
never
landing
even got the
page.
page launched.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Wow, that's a long time.
Where now the Facebook ad guy that you guys use, I mean, I think
Yeah. And it
you
wasn't
guys got
all
going
their
in a few
fault,
weeks.
though.
No.
I don't want to drag this. They'll never
No,
even
no,
hear
no.
this or see this, but I don't want to drag them through the mud. It was we wanted a lot of input as well because we felt like the page did not represent our brand correctly.
But you're
So we
also
had a
the-
lot of revisions,
Yes.
and so we kept trying to get them there. And they weren't. They would change little things here and there. Like, wait, no, but this still isn't us.
But they weren't listening. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you would explain something to them, or you would ask a question. They'd answer one question,
That's
or
true.
they solve one
And
thing
not
and then not respond to another
address.
thing.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sorry. It was egregious. I nothing. They probably are wonderful people, but the fact is, like, not responding to email for 10 days at a time, not answering questions that are in email. Like, you see what the questions are. Yeah. It was a long time.
Gosh, if that's man, I really don't remember. That sounds crazy.
It would take a long time. It would take like over a week to get a response on most things. And then to ask questions and then to get completely ignored, then you have to respond to the email again and wait more time for them to
Yeah.
respond to a question you already answered. And for you to ask a revision, which, by the way, you're the customer. So you get
Yeah.
to say, hey, this is how it needs to go. And you weren't being unreasonable. You're just saying, hey, this is how our like brand operates. This is our core values. This is
Yeah.
what we believe.
They just weren't
And
used to that. He
they
literally
weren't.
told us in the breakup email
Yeah.
that most of their clients are hands off, and I was just like, okay, well then, yeah, we are not hands off in
That
this
just doesn't-
process. We can't be.
I don't believe that. I don't. It doesn't make sense. Like, who's just hands off of their brand identity?
I think maybe brands that are not so niche and different. I think when you
Maybe.
when you ask AI to write about health and wellness, you're not going to get what we're about. I'm going to be honest. So I think we're just unique. We're so unique that they really we needed to have an entire meeting about what is truly crunchy and how do you really define what are our terms, what are we about, to have made that work. And that just didn't happen.
Yeah.
But anyways, moving on from them,
Yeah.
the people that we're working with now are fantastic, and yeah, we've seen our quickest growth that we've ever seen. We went from being excited about, well, I don't know, do we want to share numbers on here?
I wouldn't yet until you check with Sydney.
Okay.
I'll just keep it
Yeah.
vague.
Yeah, it's
Well, essentially, I can say you guys are now doing in a month what you did in the first
at
year.
least 10 times.
No, I'm saying what you did in your first year of growth, you do in a month now.
Yeah, probably.
And so, I mean, we're just
Yeah.
like, it's right on the cusp of the hockey stick
Yeah.
trajectory.
Yeah, we still haven't taken a paycheck. Every dime still goes back into it because for us, I'm sure there's a lot of magazines that did have to shell out a lot of cash up front to get started. But for us, we started very community oriented. So, it's probably a complete like magazine world faux pas to say that we didn't pay our writers at the beginning, but we had no money. And so we were asking friends who were experts just in our own community because we'd been in the space for so long. We had friends who were qualified to write on the topics that we started our first issue with, and they did it as like favors for us because they believed in our idea. And I'm trying to remember, we did hire photography. I think our friend photographed it for free for our first issue, actually, which is unheard of in the photography business. And we would never
These
ask
are professional
photographers. We would never ask anybody for anything for free because we know what their time and expertise is worth. But she offered, and we were like, that would be huge. That's what we want to set us apart is our photography. And so just helping us get started. And then, but as we've grown each quarter a tiny bit, every tiny bit of margin we've had has gone to increasing paying other people so that we can have a super high quality product. So, now we're super close to what their normal rates would be.
Yeah.
And now we have a small budget for our writers. So we're still not big. We're still not established. We still aren't where we think we should be as far as paying people for their value. But where we're at, we're like, okay, at least we can give them something. And so that as we grow, all of that's increasing. So we haven't taken a dime ourselves yet still.
Yeah. Well, again, everything goes back to the business of growth, right?
All of it. Yeah.
So like as ads scale, the best thing you can do is like, don't get lazy when things are working.
Yes.
I think Alex Ramosi talks about that. Like when things start to get easier, you lean in even harder.
Yeah.
And like, that's where I was encouraging them, is like, all right, once things start working, and I said this since the moment you guys hired them, was like, when you guys find something that works, put everything back into it. Mm-hmm. Like just dump all profits back into it, so that it just went from like $20 a day to 40 to 50 to, over $250 a day.
I think,
in ad spend.
That's where we're at right now. Yeah.
And we just scaled that, and it's been profitable. But again, it just took time of like figuring out something that worked. And then when you find something that works in ads, like you just got to keep incrementally increasing it. And that's how you just really build that momentum when things are working, because it could fall off eventually, right?
Yeah. I mean, if we weren't if we weren't increasing those numbers, we would lose our photographers eventually, you know? So it's like, okay, do we want to pay ourselves, or do we want to just keep pushing until it makes sense and we can without losing all of it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're about at 42 minutes.
Okay. Dang.
It's easy to go
it is.
to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But all right. So what we've learned so far is start quickly. Like if you have an idea, just start now. It's never going to be a better time. So just start. Do things that don't scale, right? That's the whole Peter Thiel model, I believe, in his book, 0 to 1. Do things that don't scale, right? You guys went to conferences. Went super scrappy. Social media, played the game a little bit, but figured out what was most authentic to you. Found a way to kind of get your name out there. Hey, we know Facebook ads works. Let's do that. All right, it didn't really work how we thought. You guys iterated, right? And then you went to something you did know, which is more Instagram ads, because that's more of your space. You understand aesthetics. You understand that brand. You understand crunchy, like aesthetic brands. So you knew how to deliver a good model. It worked. It got you guys growing from the beginning, slowly, but still incrementally enough. And then you hired an expert, and that expert was able to take their experience of, scaling e-commerce brands and Shopify brands, and then really pour that into, your brand and brand identity. And that's really, now you guys are seeing huge growth. So that, I guess it's the last point that I would say here would be, Alex Ramosi talks about, like, if there's a skill gap that you have, the best thing you can do is get, expert. And some of the best things you can do would just be like to go after someone who's an expert in your field and be like, hey, don't do ads for me. Just like teach me what you know. Let me drive, and I'll pay you whatever your hourly rate is. I actually did this a few months ago when I was testing Google Ads, which is just too expensive for the software industry for my space within software development agency. But I found a guy who has helped scale some SaaS SaaS company ads, and I was just like, hey, what's your rate? And he's like, I don't know, like $300. I was like, cool. Like, can I pay $1,000 for like 4? And he's like, sure. And so I just met with him like every other week, and I would drive and show him my campaigns, and he would give me little tidbits, a little information of, hey, tweak this. Hey, this is really good. You know what I found out? All my information was really good. Like, I was on the right path. He gave me some other ideas of like, hey, let's try this keyword. And when we got to points of like, I could test this or test that, it was good to have someone to say, hey, through my expertise, this is why you need to do this option, when you kind of got those forks in the roads. But by and large, it was really validating to see it. Okay, through my self knowledge and education, I was on the right path. It just wasn't, it just, I mean, the cost per click for Google Ads was like 40 to $70. So just, you couldn't scale it unless you were just a 7-figure company, in which that's for a story for another time. So all that to say, like, Alex Hormozi talks about that. You go after an expert, pay them their hourly rate, because you're going to get huge returns back on the knowledge. And I've done that, and it has been successful. And I think it's another point for you, right? If you can hire an expert, hire them and show them, like, have them show you the skill that they have that you want to learn, or have it as a done for you service, right? So for you guys, it was more of, hey, run ads for us. But either way, we have to have the humility to know, like, what are we good at?
Yeah.
What are the skills that would take my business to the next level? And either acquiring those skills by hiring those people on to show us, or just outsourcing it to those, and be willing to pay, the margin for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been super helpful. I think that's going to be, I think we'll look back and see this as the turning point of our business.
For sure. Even conservatively, even if it doesn't continue building the momentum it does, even conservatively, it'll be big. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Excited to see Truly Crunchy grow and be a part of this journey.
Thanks.
This has been the Parentrepreneur Podcast. We're Jake and Savannah, and we'll see you next time.